The observation deck of the Zenith Ark hummed with the quiet efficiency of a ship that had seen too many wars. Captain Essa stood before the viewport, watching the debris field of what was once the Corvathi fleet tumble through the void like broken toys. 47 ships, gone in 90 seconds. Behind him, Maya sat perfectly still in the interrogation chair, her wrists bound by crystalline restraints that pulsed with a faint blue light. She hadn't moved since they'd brought her aboard 3 hours ago. Hadn't spoken. Hadn't even blinked. Essa turned to face her. She was smaller than he'd expected, barely 5'4", with dark hair matted against her scalp and skin pale from years without natural sunlight. But it was the collar that held his attention. A band of brushed silver encircled her throat, seamless and organic-looking, as though it had grown there rather than been placed. Symbols he didn't recognize crawled across its surface like living things. "You're human," he said. Not a question. The DNA scan had confirmed it, though that raised more questions than it answered. There were no human settlements within 300 light-years of this sector. Maya's eyes, dark brown, almost black, finally lifted to meet his. "Was human," she corrected softly. Her voice was hoarse, unpracticed. "Depends on your definition. The Corvathi had you in a stasis pod, in their command ship's vault, surrounded by more security than their antimatter cores." Essa crossed his arms. "Who are you?" "Someone you should put back." "That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters." Her gaze dropped to the floor. "Take me to the nearest Corvathi outpost. Tell them you found me. They'll compensate you. Handsomely." Essa laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "The Corvathi just tried to glass my homeworld, killed 3 billion people before we stopped them. You'll forgive me if I'm not interested in their generosity." Something flickered across Maya's face. Regret, fear. It vanished before he could identify it. "Then kill me," she whispered. "Please, just don't touch the collar." He'd been reaching for it without thinking. A soldier's instinct to remove potential weapons. His hand froze inches from the silver band. "Don't," Maya said, and now her voice carried an edge of desperation that made his combat implants flare warning signals. "If it arms, nothing lives for 1,000,000 miles." The observation deck suddenly felt very small. "Explain," Essa said quietly. Maya closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they glistened with unshed tears. 237 years ago, humanity made first contact with the Corvathi hegemony. You know how that went. The Corvathi don't negotiate with species they consider inferior. They don't trade. They conquer. "We survived," Essa said. "Barely. Lost Earth, but we survived." "You survived because of what I did." Her voice was barely audible. "Because of what we did. Project Damocles, humanity's last-ditch insurance policy." The name meant nothing to him. Ancient history was fragmented. So much had been lost when Earth fell. "We were volunteers," Maya continued. 12 of us. They took us to the weapons division's black site on Titan. The best geneticists, the best engineers. They said they were giving us the power to end the war. They called us walking singularities. She lifted her chin, exposing the collar fully. The symbols were moving faster now, responding to her elevated heart rate. "This device is bonded to my nervous system, my cardiovascular system, my brain stem. If my heart stops, if I die, if someone tries to remove it..." She swallowed hard. "It triggers a cascading quantum collapse, creates a temporary pocket universe with zero vacuum energy. Everything in a 1,000,000-mile radius doesn't just die, it ceases to have ever existed." Essa felt his blood turn to ice. That's not possible. The energy requirements alone..." "Humanity was very motivated," Maya said softly. "Very desperate. and very, very clever when pushed to the edge of extinction. We told the Korvathi what we were, what we'd become. 12 of us, scattered across their territory. Living bombs they couldn't defuse. We told them if they didn't withdraw from human space, we'd start detonating. And they believed you? We gave them a demonstration, a small one, only 1,000 miles, just one of us. She volunteered. Maya's voice broke. Her name was Chen. She had a daughter. The observation deck was silent except for the ambient hum of the ship's systems. The Korvathi withdrew, Essa said slowly, understanding dawning. The history texts say they just left. After Earth. No one knew why. They left because they were terrified. Because humanity proved we'd rather destroy ourselves and take our enemies with us than submit. She looked up at him, and he saw the weight of centuries in her eyes. They kept us, kept all of us they could find, put us in stasis. Insurance against humanity ever rising again. Essa's hand was still hovering near the collar. He lowered it carefully. The war ended 2 centuries ago, he said. We have treaties now, trade agreements. The Korvathi are still hostile, but they kept us because they're afraid, Maya interrupted. Afraid of what humans are capable of when pushed, and they should be. Because Project Damocles didn't have a deactivation protocol. They built us to be eternal, unbreakable, unstoppable. She met his gaze. I've been awake in that pod, Essa, conscious, for 237 years, waiting, knowing what I am, what I could do. He stared at her. At this small, fragile-looking woman who contained enough destructive potential to sterilize solar systems. What do you want? He asked finally. I want to sleep, she whispered. Real sleep, but I can't. Not as long as this thing is around my neck, not as long as I'm breathing. A tear finally escaped, tracking down her pale cheek. So I'm asking you, Captain, as one human to another, find a way to end this. Find your smartest people, your best scientists. And if they can't remove the collar, her voice hardened, then at least have the decency to dump me in deep space where I can't hurt anyone when I finally run out of reasons to keep going. Essa stood silent for a long moment, his mind racing through options, protocols, ethical calculations. Then he moved to the control panel and released her restraints. No, he said simply. Humanity doesn't abandon its own. Not anymore. We'll find a way. Maya stared at him like he'd just spoken in an alien language. 2 centuries ago, we were desperate enough to turn our own people into weapons, Essa continued. Today, we're smart enough to save them. That's what makes us human, Maya, not our capacity for destruction. He held out his hand. That's our capacity for hope. For the first time in 237 years, Maya smiled. Outside the viewport, the stars burned eternal and indifferent. But inside the Zenith Arc, something older than weaponry stirred, the stubborn, defiant spark that made humanity what it was. The collar's symbols slowed their crawl, and in the darkness between worlds, hope, humanity's most dangerous weapon, began to wake.